Hi Y3 Willow, we're continuing with our online learning today. So we are going to do a bit of science work today. So our learning objective today is to classify animals by what they eat. So we've got animals are different to plants because we're going to come back to that later. Carnivores are, can you say carnivores? Carnivores. Good. Omnivores are, can you say omnivores? Good. And herbivores are herbivores. Can you say herbivores? Excellent. So, and I can categorize animals into different categories. So we're going to come back to these things later because we're going to do a bit of learning and see if we can come back to it later. So we've got, what does a plant need to survive? So let's go through this. So it needs water, okay? All living things need water to survive. It needs air, okay? It gets, all living things need things to have air to breathe to ensure that it can survive. Shelter. A plant needs to be in the right temperature and the right place. It can't be in a too cold a place or else it's going to get very cold and won't be able to have enough energy to survive. And it can't be in a too hot a place because if it's too hot, it won't be able to survive either. So it needs to be in the right temperature for that plant. It also needs food. Now, they get food from their plant, from the soil. So that's where they get what we call nutrients. You say it, nutrients. And they get that from the soil that they're planted in. And they also need light to survive as well. So let's have a think of our next question then. So this is obviously a human. And what do we need to survive? What things do we need to have to survive? Have a pause of this video and have a think about what we need to survive. Okay, so good thinking. So let's have a think about what we need to have to survive. We need food, obviously. If we don't have food, we're going to starve. So we obviously need to have the right amount of food and eat healthily as well. We also need water because if we don't get water, we get dehydrated, and that could also be very important for making sure that we survive and that we live. Our next one, we need shelter. We need to make sure that we are staying in somewhere that is sheltered, that keeps us warm, that keeps us dry, especially during like the winter months. And we also need to have air as well. Of course, we need to have air to breathe or else we just wouldn't survive. So my next question for you is, what's the same and what's different? Are there any big differences? Have a think, have a pause. Okay, so as you notice that there are quite a few similarities and very few differences actually. So both humans and plants need shelter to survive. We both need places so we can keep warm and we're not too hot or not too cold. We obviously both need air to survive and to breathe. We need water as well. We need to make sure that we're hydrated, that we have the right amount of water. We obviously need food. So obviously plants get food from the soil, and obviously we have to eat our food to get to make sure that we are survive. But plants, they need light, and we don't. I mean, it's nice to have light, but we don't really need it to survive. Okay, so they're the sort of things that are the same and different about plants and humans. So humans and plants are both living things. However, plants can make their own food by using sunlight and carbon dioxide. Can you say carbon dioxide? Good, okay. Animals, we cannot produce our own food, okay? We can't make it ourselves inside. We have to go and find it and cook it or things like that, okay? However, not all animals need to cook it. They can find it and then hunt for it. They rely on food in their diet to survive. So my next question is, what's the same and what's different about some of these animals? So I've got a lion, I've got a dog, I've got a monkey, I've got a deer, I've got a hedgehog, I've got a cow, elephant, giraffe, a wolf, a crocodile, a pig, and a snake. Have a think. What do you think? Some of these might be the same. Some of these might be different. Have a think, have a pause. Think about what you think might be the same or different. Okay, so all of these things need to have food to survive. They are all things that have to find their food, okay? They can't produce it like a plant, because plants are very lucky in that sense, they can make their own food. Whereas these animals, they have to find it. They have to look for their food and find it. So some of you might have noticed that some of these animals eat certain types of food. For example, a lion will only eat meat, okay? But for example, a cow won't eat meat. It won't help it survive, but it needs things like grass and seeds to survive. Same with a giraffe. A giraffe won't eat meat, but it will eat things like plants and berries to survive. Whereas a wolf can't survive on just plants and berries. It won't survive on plants and berries. It needs meat to survive. So, what kind of food do you think these animals eat? So here again, we've got a lion, we've got a shark, we've got a snake, we've got a lovely tiger, we've got a wolf, a cheetah, and a crocodile. So I want you to have a think. What type of food do these animals need to eat in order to survive? Have a pause, have a think. Okay, so yeah, they're all meat eaters. They all have to eat meat, okay? And the scientific term for a meat eater is what we call a carnivore. Carnivore, your turn. Good. A carnivore is a meat eater. They only eat meat to survive. They can't have anything else. They can't have plants or anything like that. They must have meat to survive. So all these animals are meat eaters, okay? So let's go on to our next one. So we've got a horse, we've got a chicken, we've got a lovely cute little bunny rabbit there. We've got a giraffe, a sheep with some food coming out of his mouth. Maybe that's a bit of a clue. And we've got a cow here. So again, I want you to have a think. What type of food do these animals need to survive? Have a pause, have a think. Yes, these animals are all plant eaters. They all need some sort of plant to survive. They would eat maybe things like grass or berries or hay or things that they can find that is basically not meat. They will not be able to eat meat to survive. We call these animals herbivores. Can you say herbivores? Brilliant, herbivores. A herbivore is a plant eater. They only eat plants, okay? Things like grass, berries, hay, things like that, okay? So, now we go on to another category. So we've got a monkey, a bear, a human, and a little hedgehog. Now I want you to have a think. What type of things do they need to eat? What type of things do we need to eat in order to live? Have a pause, have a think. Okay, brilliant thinking. So we need both plants and meat to survive, okay? And the same for some types of monkeys, some types of bears and hedgehogs. These need berries, they need plants, they need things like meat to survive. Yes, hedgehogs do eat meat, okay? They eat things like insects and things like that. So we call these eaters omnivores. Omnivores. You have a go. Brilliant. So an omnivore is an animal that eats both plants and meats, okay? However, there are some humans that choose not to eat meat, and we call them vegetarians and even sometimes vegans. And a vegetarian is somebody who only eats plants. They don't eat any meat. So humans can survive without meat. However, we are designed to eat plants and eat meat. So let's go over these again just to recap. So we have carnivores, which are meat eaters, okay? So animals like lions, like wolves, like snakes that have to hunt for their food, okay? We have herbivores that are plant eaters. So they eat things like grass, they eat like things like berries, okay? And unfortunately, sometimes the carnivores hunt the herbivores because they're easy to find, they're easier to kill, okay? And then we have omnivores, okay? Animals that eat both plants and meat. So we're going back to our success criteria. So animals are different to plants because plants need light, whereas we don't need light, okay? Plants can produce their own food, okay? They can make it themselves, whereas we have to go find our food, okay? We have to find it. So we've got here, carnivores are, let's have a think. Carnivores are, yes, they're meat eaters, okay? So then we've got omnivores are, let's have a think what an omnivore is. An omnivore. An omnivore is a meat and plant eater. And a herbivore, right, let's have a think. We've got a herbivore. So, yes, you're totally right. A herbivore is a plant eater. They only eat plants. So we've got carnivore is a meat eater, an omnivore, a meat and plant eater, and we've got herbivores, which is just a plant eater. So what I'm going to ask you to do, you're going to categorize these animals in a Venn diagram. You say that? Venn diagram. Venn diagram. Okay, so let me show you quickly what a Venn diagram is. So we have two big circles here, and these two circles come in between. So in one section, we have a carnivore. Can you say carnivore again? Brilliant. We have a herbivore. So remember, herbivores are plant eaters. So can you say herbivore? Super. And then we in the middle, we have an omnivore. So we have omnivores that are both plant and meat eaters. So what you're going to do, you're going to have some pictures or some words, okay? And you're going to organize them into this diagram, okay? You can do this on a pen and paper. You can just do two big circles if you need to, and you can look at the animals that I put on. If you want to, if you know of other animals, choose them as well. Have a think, have a research about what those animals might eat or what those animals eat. So let's do this one together. We've got a chicken, okay? So is it a carnivore? Is it an omnivore? Or is it a herbivore? Let's have a think. You have a think what you think a chicken might be sorted into. Yes, a chicken is obviously a herbivore. Yes, it would only eat plants, it would only eat grass or things like that. Okay, so our next animal, we have got a tiger. So have a think, would a tiger be a carnivore, an omnivore, or a herbivore? Let's have a think. Do you think a carnivore, do you think it would eat meat or plants or both? So well done if you said a tiger was a carnivore. Yes, a tiger is a carnivore, it eats meat, it hunts for meat. Okay, so we then have a giraffe. So do you think a giraffe might be a carnivore, a meat eater, an omnivore, a plant and meat eater, or a herbivore? Do you think it only eats plants? Have a think of where you think the giraffe might be organized into. Good, well done if you said herbivore. Yes, a giraffe is a herbivore. It eats plants in order to survive. Okay, so now we've got a human here, okay? So do you think in order to survive that we only are carnivores, omnivores, or herbivores? Do we only need to eat meat to survive, or only need plants to survive, or do we need a bit of both in order to survive? Have a think of where you think the human might go. So a human would be an omnivore, okay? So it would need to eat plants and meat. However, we do have humans that are vegetarians or vegans and they choose not to eat meat, okay? But mostly we would put them into the omnivore section in the middle. And then we have our lovely little hedgehog, okay? So let's have a think. Where do we think this would go? Can you remember where it went into the categories? So is it a carnivore, a meat eater, Is it an omnivore, a plant and meat eater, or is it a herbivore? Have a think about where the hedgehog is going to go. Well done if you said it was an omnivore. Hedgehogs are omnivores. They eat both plants and meat, so things like insects and like things, other smaller creatures that you can find. So what you're going to do, you're going to have a go at organising some of these animals into the right categories. Okay, some that we've done already, so that's fantastic. So you need to think about where these animals need to. And again, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to print anything out. You can just do 2 circles, making sure that that's the bit in the middle on a sheet of paper, and having a go at some of these deciding where some of these go. I have put up some words here as well if you need them, because you might not be able to print this out. If you want to, if you can think of your own animals to organise into the categories, please do so. Any work that you do, please send it to my email address, which is y3@estrellabyronwood.org. Okay, I would love to see your work, and I would love to see how fantastically hard, how hard you're working at home. There we go. And please make sure that you have a go at this. Okay, it's better just to have a go at it than not do it at all. So I hope you're doing well and you're staying safe, and hopefully we'll be able to see some of your work soon. So for now, I'm going to say bye-bye.